showtime!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, degenerates of all ages, welcome to another Thursday evening of That Fuzzing 518 show. Here we are once again, and getting through another week. I kind of bagged off last week. Took a little mental health day for myself. It's been a crazy month or so of time, and yeah. What's up, Len? Good to see you, man. So we are here. This Thursday evening is a special one. Usually we talk music, bands, etc., etc. Tonight's going to be a little bit different. We are going to have Will and TPP from the Above Ground podcast on tonight. And we're going to be talking about grief and loss. And we're just going to have a conversation. And I hope that you guys in the chat join us and talk about this stuff too, because it's important. It's important. It's not obviously there's a lot of different factors in the whole scheme of life that's important, but this is one of them. And I for some reason, I don't know if it's just my age or what I just went through hit me hard. And, I always forget to start the camera. There you go. Ugly has arrived. So, I mean, this whole thing just kind of, hit me hard, and I thought I was ready. I thought I was ready for it. My father was getting on in years, and I figured, may as well start getting ready for it now. But I don't think you're ever truly ready for it. But we'll get into that with the boys, and we'll sit down and talk about that in a little while. A couple new friends of the show, Empire Live. We'll be talking about them fairly soon. They're doing pretty good things down there I can't even call it the Capitol Rep building anymore. It's the Empire Live building now. Down in Albany, they're doing some great things. We'll talk about them coming up in weeks to come. Also, Animated Insanity Records, my friend Joe P over there. Shout out to you, Joe. And I will get back to you on the other things we talked about. Our good friend Myron Lozon is busy, hard at work, creating all that custom artwork that everybody knows, loves, etc., etc. You guys can find him at myronlozon.com. Also on Insta, I believe it is at Psycho Fire Productions. It's Psycho FYRE Productions. But if you guys need something custom drawn up, it's the man to go to. There's Myron right there. Heavy Metal Way of Life. Go visit Dan's page on Facebook. Everything metal, worldly metal. It kind of like starts at his page and branches off to all different corners of the world. So if you're looking for cool stuff that's metal, Heavy Metal Way of Life on Facebook is the way to go. And last but certainly not least, we'll talk about Left Hand Creations, 666.com. Our buddy Jim Wortman behind me, of course, is Wortman's Wall. Jim's takes a lot of amazing photographs, does amazing work with them, makes prints. So if you guys see something you want on either his Facebook page or Left Hand Creations, 666.com, send him a message, tell him you want to print, and you guys can work out a deal from there. How's that sound? Good enough? Capital Underground, episode 25, guys. It's up now on nippertown.com. Of course, nippertown.com, everything you want local, you'll find it on nippertown.com. If not, we'll get the mayor involved, and he'll get it up on there. Next week on the show, September 9th, we're going to have Murderers Row live in studio. Well, not live in studio, but on the horn, shall we say. And that's going to be a fun time with Mr. Riley and the boys. We lost TPP again. All right, give me 1 second, guys. I'll be right with you. I just got to finish plugging social medias, guys. YouTube.com/ThatFuzzing518. So if you're watching on Facebook right now, head over there at your convenience. Subscribe, like, share. Click the notification button. That way you'll know every time we go on live. If you're on the YouTube side, facebook.com/thatfuzzing518 show. We're on this side. You can follow us over here. Share to your friends. Let them know the insanity we got going on. Insta and TikTok, we're also there at thatfuzzing518 show. Those are a little slow right now, but I promise I'll get on them soon. And yeah, that's all the business we have. Subscribe, like, follow, and share. That's just the 4 things you guys need to know about that. Everything else is just. Oh my God, EPD finally showed up for a shift. I might have to pay you this week, brother. Good to see you, Dan. All right. So I'm going to bring the boys on now because we have everybody here now. And welcome to the show, guys, from the Above Ground Podcast. Will Foley and TPP. There's the boys. Good evening, gentlemen.
What's up, Fuzz?
I don't know, man. This life is up, man.
How we doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right, dude. I have my ups and downs, but I think everybody does.
I hear you.
It's just it seems like it's a sign of the times. Everything's kind of shitty, and it's conveyed through the media, through social media, through everything is just so fucking negative, and it's tough to kind of get out of that rut. And then you have something like, I'm not going to make this all about me, obviously, but then you have something hit me like what just hit me, in the beginning of August, and it really gets you down. And then, and then that's where you guys come in. That's where your avenue of expertise comes in about mental health. And it's no joke, man. It can get a grip on you, and it'll definitely steer you in some dark places that you don't normally see yourself going ever.
I absolutely. But and I'm sure Tim would second this too, and I'm sure he'll like to hear his follow up for this. Is that we can't look at mental health separately from the whole. So we all have mental health. We don't all have a mental illness or a mental health disorder or even a mental health challenge or hurdle. So, but what we all do have is we all have pain. We all suffer grief. We all go through grief. We all go through loss. We can't escape the human condition without loss. And it doesn't matter what that is.
Yeah. And I mean, it's as far as losing someone, I mean, honestly, death comes to us all. We all know that. We all put that in the way back of our mind and bury it because nobody wants to think about their mortality. Nobody does. But something happens and you start thinking not only about your mortality, but the mortality of those around you. And especially with grief, it's like I have trouble grieving. Let's put it that way. I never hit that one wall where it's like I just have that breakdown. I get close and I'll get teary-eyed and stuff like that, but I never really hit that one wall where it's like complete breakdown. That's where you kind of like your grief hits quote unquote rock bottom, and then you kind of build from there. I never go through that stage. I never went through it.
Well, is it that you will allow yourself to go through that stage? Because
I think that's part of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Is it that you don't know how to express these deep things, or is it that I'm sure there's a little trepidation in there. I'm sure that there's a little insecurity in there. And I mean, look at you, dude. You're a pretty big burly guy, and again, I mean, obviously it doesn't show you what's on the inside. Mm-hmm. And it's like we all handle things in a different way, but we have to get to a point where we have to allow ourselves to feel those things. And they're scary, man. They're big and scary. And but you have to be willing to take that first step to start to explore that stuff, because that's where the gold is. It's under all that soot that we've kind of built up over the years. And then it takes something like losing your dad to bring up years of trauma that you may not have even thought about for 40 years.
I honestly think that As far as in public goes, I think I have to stay strong for everybody else and not show that, to let everybody else go through their thing and to kind of like be that rock for everybody so that there's at least some sort of stability for people. Because I'm the type of person, I mean, I have a pretty gruff exterior, but like I want to see everybody succeed and I want to help as many people as I can. And I have that inside me. And that's not some weird flex either. It's just fact. I want to see everybody happy and successful and not be in the dumps all the time. So I kind of sacrifice a little bit of myself on that. Again, not throwing myself on a sword, but I think I try to stay strong so everybody else doesn't have to. And I think that's part of where it kind of gets blocked. And then when I'm alone, and I mean, I have every means of showing it. I live in a house by myself. I can easily shout, scream, punch walls. I got a punching bag in the back. I can do whatever. TPP's back.
All right.
I mean, I have every means of. There he is. Showing it. I can easily. Oh, we're getting feedback. Where's that coming from?
Scream, punch probably walls, from his phone.
Do you have Facebook on, Tim?
It's not working on my end.
Right.
We're getting feedback. Where's that coming from?
Probably from his phone.
Do you have Facebook on?
No, I've got nothing on. I can't even get through. You guys are all choppy. No.
Not working on my end.
Yeah, there's some form of playback coming through. I'm not sure what that is. But yeah, I think like when I'm alone, I can kind of let loose. I just don't, and I keep myself busy. I think to not think about stuff. I don't know. It's hard to explain, and I don't think it's as much of like a macho thing as it is just. I don't know how to explain it. I just don't hit that. I don't hit that wall.
And I do, and I think some of it could be the fact that you may not know how to. And it's not because we're not taught these things in school. We're not taught how to deal with our feelings. We're not taught how to deal with any of that stuff. So we get stuck in those patterns that we've had forever, and we don't have a way out because we can't find a way to express it, whether it's in language. That's why we turn to music, man. That's why you got all those guitars back there. That's why metal is so important. That's why us having this conversation about that is super important, because most men aren't going to sit around the bar talking about loss and grief, man. Not everyone. I mean, I shouldn't say anybody, because yes, there are people I know that have their tribe and their brothers and stuff, and I'm sure that they talk deep shit, man. I'm sure they do. And I'm sorry if I shouldn't swear. I didn't mean to.
No, you're fine, dude.
Okay. All right, dude. I wasn't sure, and I was going to ask you, and I meant to, but I wasn't sure. Now, are you getting any feedback from me?
No.
Okay.
No, I think we got it.
All right.
You there, Tim? No, he's freezing up again.
Huh. I wonder if they're having Wi-Fi issues where he is.
It's possible. I used to get that every now and then. I finally smartened up and hardwired in.
I was trying to use my laptop and didn't realize that this didn't open on Safari. And then
it's breaking.
Yeah, it seems like his Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah, it's his Wi-Fi. It's true. If you get closer to the router, Tim, that might help. I don't know if that's possible, but
it's.
We'll get him back, guys. I promise.
Yeah, we'll get him. We'll get him. So when you don't have the words to express, like anger for us is an emotion that men express when we're depressed, when we're sad. It doesn't matter. Anger is usually how it's expressed in a male. no matter what, me, you, anyone. It just is. Maybe not to the same extent as everybody, because everybody's different in that regard. But, we know that, we have to let our emotions out. We have to find healthy ways to do that, and creative ways to do that. And it doesn't matter whether you're a woodworker, a tattoo artist, a painter, a singer, a guitar player, a podcaster, a doctor, or a shoe salesman. It doesn't matter. You can bring art and you can bring yourself to that, and you'll have more sales, you'll have more success. And look, I know I sound like one of these life coaches, and it's a lot of stuff to take in. This is not easy to put into practice, because I know a lot of people will be saying, well, why is like he's saying all this, but look at where he is. I have serious struggles all the time, and I'm very open about them, and I've been very open about them, and that's kind of where this whole podcast thing came from.
Mhm.
And it's just, there's just a lot of layers to a human being, and we don't always have the ways to express every layer.
No, that's true. And Len brought up a really good point. He said I never felt I needed to be the Rock, but I think that allowing my emotions to show in regards to grief, I've allowed myself to release my grief and shown my sons that grief is a real emotion and it's okay to let it go. That's a great point, man, because a lot of guys, my father, I think I saw him cry once. And I think that was when my mom died. Maybe twice. I'm not sure. But I once for sure when my mom died. So I think maybe that's part of it too, is that I kind of get that from him. Grown men don't cry. But he was brought up in an era where that was kind of ingrained in them too. So,
well, that's part of the emotional IQ, we call it, that you have to develop for people. Because we have so many generations now all wrapped up together that all have different languages now, and it's hard to keep everything straight. But as long as you're an open and honest person, your genuine energy is going to shine through. And so asking somebody about a loss or grief, or asking somebody to talk, is not a bad thing at all. But the one thing that we really didn't start. Do you think your watchers and stuff, do you know what the 7 stages of grief are?
I don't know. I mean, I know a couple of them. I don't know them all.
Okay. So the 7 stages of grief, now these are not linear, okay? These do not follow any pattern. Okay, you can have one of them one day, you could have 3 of them some days. Mm-hmm. There is no set pattern, there is no set time limit, and there is no real guidebook of what's going to come up during those stages. So we have shock and denial for the first stage, which seems pretty general. We're all in shock. We're all surprised when somebody leaves us that's close to us, or an accident happens, or something happens to us. We're all pretty shocked. And you start to deny it. Oh, what if I had done this? Because that leads us to the pain and guilt. Because the pain and guilt of grief is what really makes the grief very, very hard to handle. And then we have anger and bargaining. And that's where we get mad and we say, I wish we could have done this better. If I could have just been there, or if I could have been there 5 minutes sooner, or if I could have stopped this, or if I could have made this decision. It's that catastrophizing after that happens that we get into that really leads to the next stage, which is depression. And the depression part of grief, if you're not a depressive person, you may run a really low depression, feel kind of sad for a little bit, and be able to bounce back and move on. Mm-hmm. Now, somebody like me who lives with a serious form of depression, that depression could linger for years, decades. And that's the seriousness about grief and loss that we don't understand, and the toll that trauma and loss takes on us. And that leads, then after the depression, leads to an upward turn, because after the depression, you can't get any lower. And then that leads to reconstruction and working through, which this is the positive stage, where you take what you've learned, and you take your loss, or you take you take whatever it is that you feel has caused this grief, and you start to turn it around, and you start to use it for better. And then at the end, it's acceptance and hope. And you realize that you're not your circumstances, you're not the event, you're not your diagnosis, and you're not your loss necessarily, unless you make yourself stay there, because you allow yourself to stay there by not trying to get up. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be every day that you're going to have a great day, and that doesn't mean every day you're going to get up. But as long as you get up days and do one thing, at least one thing, just to keep yourself going, you can get through these stages.
Well, Sicko says mine are all rage.
That's and that's a natural reaction to this. But there's a deeper, what we have to realize is, and look, I can only speak. So just so everybody knows out there. So I am the co-creator and co-host and producer of Above Ground Podcast with Tim. And Tim and I have similar backgrounds and similar paths. We're just different people, which makes our perspectives kind of unique, because we're not parrots of each other, and we have our own opinions, and we're both very strong and resilient and steadfast in some of our opinions. But the good thing is that doing this work, you learn a lot. But what I've learned the most is that I don't know nearly as much as I think I do. However, the things that I have learned, I've learned because I've taken the time. I am an actual peer support specialist. I'm certified to the state. I got my certification last year at the end of towards the end of 2020, and Tim and I have co-facilitated some groups together, and you have to do something with that, and that's what happened with this for me, because it's suicidal ideation and therapy and working through a bunch of shit that's gotten me to this point, that led me to all the steps that got us, Tim and I, hooked back up to start Above Ground Podcast. And that's what happens when you go through the stages of grief, but you turn that around. So it can be done.
I wanted to put that up there too. I'm going to put this up there because I know you guys just got into Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month, correct?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes, we did. It's
so
September.
I will put that up there in case somebody needs that, and write it down, because it's not it's not something you want to go through alone. You can't. I don't think you can go through it alone.
Well, do you mind if I just talk about it for a couple minutes?
No, you can do it as much as you want. Please do.
All right. So yes, September is nationally recognized as Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month, and then there's a week. The week of September 11th, ironically enough, this year is the week that is the week they call it, but it's the whole month. And for us, it's a 365, 24/7 thing. I deal with suicidal ideation. I have Tim has been in a similar situation. I have a severely mentally ill mother who's attempted suicide twice. Tim and I both share a loss of a close friend a couple of years ago now, and that loss was very hard. It was very hard on everybody that knew this gentleman and his family, and it was pretty shocking for me. I don't know if it was shocking as much to a lot of other people that saw him on a regular basis. But suicide prevention is more than just the phone number. And for anybody who doesn't know what the phone number is, it's 1-800-273-8255. Or you can text the crisis line, and you can text the word help or hello at 741-741. And that's a 24/7 line that somebody is going to answer on the other side. But if you are in any danger, know somebody who's in any danger, there's a myth that I want everybody to understand that is a complete myth, and I need to dispel it right now. And that's the fact that talking about suicide puts the idea in the person's head. I can tell you this from personal experience and from many hours of combing through interviews that we put up on the podcast every week, like we're doing this month, that it is not one thing, and talking about it and asking somebody about it will never put the idea in their head if the idea wasn't there already. And the truth is, by asking someone if they are thinking about hurting themselves, or even more pointedly saying, are you thinking about ending your life or dying by suicide? Or do you have a plan or a way to do this? And if they say yes, then you need to immediately call 911 and let a trained crisis team come in, because they do have the resources. When somebody has the ways and means, they will send somebody almost immediately, pretty much, when it comes to that type of thing. But crisis teams are underfunded, especially the way things are right now. However, you can take somebody to the emergency room. That does not mean that that person will stay there, because they do have the right to refuse because of the way our mental health parity laws work. However, if they are in immediate danger, take them to an emergency room, call 911, and make sure someone stays with them until you can get them help. But talking about suicide, asking if somebody is thinking about something like that, or whether they have a plan or if they've ever thought about it, is not going to put the idea in their head. The thing that it actually does is the opposite. It shocks the system. Most people would be shocked if you went up to them and asked them, are you thinking about dying by suicide? Because could you think about somebody coming up to you and asking you that?
I would almost laugh, and I'm not saying I'm taking it lightly, but I would almost laugh and kind of be like, well, where's that coming from? You know what I mean? I don't think I'm that. I don't think I project being someone that would harm myself.
Well, I'm not saying you walk up to everybody on the street and ask them that. This is an intimate conversation that you would have with somebody that you know.
Yeah, if somebody,
you would certainly recognize something.
I would be taken aback by it. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that was my point. That kind of takes you back. It's like, oh, whoa, wait a second. Does somebody see something?
Yeah.
Oh my God, maybe somebody does see me for who I am. See, that's the humanity I'm talking about. And it's hard to have that humanity when your face is buried in your goddamn phone every night, and you know it's impossible. Like, we've really set ourselves up for all the issues that we have, because we need to perpetuate the constant system and the constant flow and the constant, barrage of everything for everything, because the whole entire financial and world and powers and everything are all wrapped up in this big machine that have to keep grinding it out. But what they keep doing is creating tools to keep us further from our true selves, which makes us even more susceptible to depression, even more susceptible to anxiety. I mean, anxiety is at an all-time high. Depression, I think, will surpass, if it hasn't surpassed already, will surpass after everybody gets over their anxiety and realizes that they're the only ones who can really change their own future, myself included, because it's hard to get out of your own fucking way sometimes. But if we stick together and help one another, we can get through this. So don't ever be afraid to ask somebody if you see something in them that makes you ask that question, and they're really in a bad spot, they will appreciate it. They may not appreciate it immediately, but they will appreciate it.
Well, Sandy makes a good point too. She said sometimes it's a whole different image that people present to the public.
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, one of my idols, man. I mean, look at all our idols that have died. And you can consider, death by misadventure as far as like, overdosing, drinking, like be it John Bonham or whatever. That's really a slow form of suicide in a lot of ways, because we're really, drinking away something. We're drinking away something, or we're drugging away something. And I'm just as guilty as anybody else. There's probably 4 things I should be in recovery for that I'm not, because I can only tackle one at a time. But it's like, we look at our idols and look at Chris Cornell. I mean, that, I mean, Soundgarden tour just started, man. First night. It's like, you
That
don't
was a
see
big
that.
one.
Dude, that was huge. That was huge. I mean, I know, and that was huge to me because that's my era. So, and that's my high school. Those are my high school days, Soundgarden high school days. So I'm like, that was huge to me. That's why, like, I covered I Am the Highway and in tribute because, and I got a chance actually because of my mental health advocacy. I'm involved with the National Alliance for Mental Illness here in the Capital Region also. And I was fortunate enough to be part of a program last year that gave Chris Cornell's daughter, Lily, an advocate award. And they presented it with her. Yeah. And it was all, it was all filmed because of COVID, but it was a great honor to be there. And
Yeah,
it was super cool, man. And Matthew Shapiro at NAMI does an incredible job getting the word out and getting to people who can actually make change. And, he's been on our podcast. Like, we're fortunate enough. I'm fortunate enough now, and Tim and I are very fortunate to be, we are the keepers of so many, like, hard conversations, man. And it's not, this didn't start out to be about suicide. The podcast is really about the wellness to illness spectrum of mental health. Because like I said at the beginning of the show, we all have mental health. We don't all have any mental health challenges.
Right.
So, and it's our job to keep that just as in tune as our bodies. And we let our bodies fail just like we let our minds fail. And that's really the extent of it. You got to take care of it all. And it makes dealing with grief and dealing with change and dealing with the hurdles that you're going to face a lot easier.
Now, do you think that you've been in this game quite a while, obviously?
Yeah, I started, I mean, the mental illness journey began very early in my life because of my mother. And then I've had my own struggles throughout my adult life. Let's say I had started late 20s and then it got really amplified mid 30s, and it's been amplified now for quite a while, but I choose not to go the pharmaceutical route. So when you choose not to go the pharmaceutical route, what you put in your body really matters. And I am not a tender to my body. I've been probably drinking a little bit. I drink way too much coffee. I've probably been drinking a little too much alcohol and whatever else, you know what I mean? That, get my head right. But it's like, it's tough sometimes.
Do you think that I mean, we're coming up on the 20-year anniversary of 9/11.
Yes.
Do you think that has had a drastic effect on people's mental health? And I'm not talking about, like, I understand, first responders, police officers, firefighters, that were there, or that, even the stuff that they're going through today, which is another point that's for another story, but I'll make that point quick. Like, right after 9/11 and like 2, 3, 4 years after it, if you even sneeze towards a cop, people would want to beat the shit out of you. Everybody was like, loved police, loved firefighters, loved their first responder guys. Now we're shooting them while they're sitting in their cars eating their dinners. I don't understand how that's even possible.
Well, I mean, look, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's
because again, yes, okay. Look, that is a collective trauma that everyone who has been alive in that time suffered. Everyone did, because I remember exactly everything I did that day, where I was, almost what time it was, and it changed things in my own apartment because I was living by myself at that time. My wife and I had only been dating like under a year or so, and I remember going home to my apartment and there was no TV shows. There was nothing because everything was dead and black with this just picture of burned out buildings.
Yep.
So immediately right away, not did we just not suffer that trauma, but we've just suffered the trauma all over again for the next year and a half.
Mhm.
And then to mention, and then all the downfall that happened following it, you know, in government and some of the things that were put in place and have been kept in place. And just because unfortunately, like I said, there's so much wrapped up, there's so much baked in the pie that without literally taking out every ingredient and rebaking the pie, you're never going to change the pie. And that's what happened. You saw that happen last summer. People are sick of being treated less than and sick of being innocently murdered at times by people who are supposed to protect them.
Mhm.
And that overflowed along with a really negative person in public office who decided that he was going to take out every narcissistic thought that he had and changed the whole narrative to say it's all about me, making all about you. So we've lost the we. So there is no we. So it's not, we don't see people. We only see their uniforms now. Like nobody sees the human being anymore. Okay? Nobody. But that's been being drilled into us for decades. And this started, I think personally, when this country entered Vietnam. I think Vietnam uniformly and DNA'd changed this country. And it brought out a lot of things. And I don't say it because there were so many bad things that have happened leading up to Vietnam but Vietnam changed, like Vietnam took the innocence away and ripped open every gaping hole that we had at that time.
Mhm.
And that's when, you know, everything just kind of went haywire. I really do think it's because we can't look past the uniform. We can't look past the fact that you got this one on your side and you're on this side. We've been literally segmented so far down to our shorts that tribalism has run rampant because everybody says you got to find your tribe. And that's what's happened. We've segregated so much of ourselves into our own echo chambers that we can't trust anything or anyone. I mean, our public health, like, look, I'm in public health. And I know the effects of what mental illness does. I know what the effects of long-term psych meds does to certain people. Other people need them. But, like, you got people now who don't even believe simple science. And that to me is it's ignorant for one thing. To me, because I don't necessarily think you want to understand it because it's not on your side. I think that there's a lot of other people, though. And because I'm really hopeful, man, and that's why I do this. Like, I want to have conversations with different people because I need to learn too. Because I'm 49 years old. You know, I grew up on Happy Days and Kiss and non-PC. Like, most of my whole life up to my 20s was the most un-PC shit you could do.
Oh, yeah.
But I have to take my own personal responsibility in that. And now as a parent, and especially the parent of a girl, I see the world a lot differently, man, than I did in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the problem, though. I think inherently we've lost the humanity in people because we keep getting told that, okay, you go to work, your job is more important for you to get home on your job than to do this or to do this. So you have to go out and protect yourself at all costs. And it doesn't matter. And I'm not talking law enforcement. I'm talking everyone. Mm-hmm. And that's where all those corners we're in now. Like we're in this hunker down time where everybody's literally like afraid of everybody because our craziness is just run amok, and nobody can quite take a deep enough breath to say, okay, wait a second. No, yeah, he might be wearing I'm a Green Bay Packer fan. So he might be wearing a Chicago Bears hat, but that doesn't make him necessarily a bad guy. And I know I'm simplifying it because there's deeper rooted problems that
absolutely.
we don't have time to cover. And they're you know what I mean? And a lot of what we're going to talk is going to be opinion and conjuncture. But we really we have to look past the uniforms, look past the differences. And it's cliche, but we do, man. And you know, and the like, that's all I got. Like, that's it. Like, we have to figure out a way to do that. And if that's holding your tongue at Thanksgiving, then maybe that's okay once in a while.
It's so simple. It's difficult. I think.
Right.
Looking past, and seeing people for who they are is not looking at somebody and seeing a donkey or an elephant. And that's, I think, a big problem is that people can't see past religious party or political parties.
Well, they can't see past religion either, man.
Well, that's true too.
I
have friends of mine that are so far to the right that they're like, that dude's a Democrat, fuck him. Like, you've known this guy for 40 years, bro. You grew up with him. Yeah, I know. He's a Democrat, fuck him. And I got people on the left to do the same thing.
Well,
and they try to get me to say, like, they're like, well, what do you think? I'm like, I think it's all stupid. I'm not gonna involve myself in political debates because literally friends of 40 years are losing their friendships because of somebody else's opinion. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, and it doesn't. But we can all fall into that, man. We can all fall into our team battles because I'm just as guilty as the next guy. Because like I'm on, like if you're gonna look at Tim and I, like I'm on the left side, Tim's on the right. Okay. The hands down, that's how it is. But that's why I enjoy that though. Because the thing is that I've known Tim for many years. I've been through a lot of things with Tim. So I'm not going to we're going to look past all this nonsense anyway, because unfortunately it really is just the other side of the same coin. It's just that it's a different side. It's either heads or tails. It just happens to be the same damn monster. But the problem is that letting that monster fail, we're starting to see the cracks. And is what's waiting on the other side worth that to everybody? It's not worth it to me. And unfortunately, like, you can pick your sides of who's propagating it more. So
you leave the aardvark out of it, sir. Thank you.
You know what I mean? So it's like both sides propagate the thing, and it's hard to keep in the center. But that's why
all of that stuff has an effect on mental health, though.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Like, it's all everything is kind of like co-joined. It's everything. It's stuff that you think wouldn't have an effect on your mental health does.
Dude, absolutely. And I kind of want to point out something, because the design in your background of that like web, like that looks like the netting, right? So yeah. That's actually us. Now you may think this is really foo-foo, or this may be too foo for you, but you know what, dude, lighten up, laugh, get a joke out of it if you don't appreciate it. But the fact is that is us. That's you. That's me to the right. That's your neighbor to the left. Like, that's the web that we live in. Energy just transmits itself. Just like we're on this StreamYard thing, man, talking to each other through, headsets and micro, and all these waves, man. Frequencies. We're all frequencies.
I miss Tim, by the way.
You miss Tim?
I miss Tim, by the way. Yeah, I do. I wish he was here. Sorry,
Yeah,
buddy.
me too. Me too, man. I do
You
wish
know
he
what?
was here
We'll-
because I really want
listen,
him to be part of this conversation.
I would
Well,
love
why
to.
don't you have him on by himself?
I can do that, or we can do it again with the three of us. I would absolutely love to.
No, dude. You know what? Tim and I have done like we had this happen before where we had a hard time with connection, and Tim and I wound up splitting. So, dude, if Tim wants to come back on, if he can get it to work, I'll jump off if that's part of the problem. But I don't know if that
No,
is the issue or not.
it's the Wi-Fi issue, I think.
Okay.
But either way, I would absolutely love to have him on at some point.
Yeah, have him on for sure.
The three of us, that'd be great.
Dude, well, you ever want to come on the podcast and talk about mental health? We can.
That'd be great, man.
If ever,
Yeah, absolutely.
if ever something you want to talk about, man, we can. We can even talk about grief and loss again.
So let me ask you this: as far as mental health goes, and Lana just brought it up, I'm glad she did because I've had this in my head for a while now. Do you think that social media has the biggest impact on our mental health at this point?
So, thank you very much for your question. I look at everything. I try to look at everything this way because this is where my best personal emotional outcome comes from. Okay. Yes, social media is part of the problem. Okay. But it's not social media that's the problem. It's how it's used, it's how it's allowed to be used, and it's how we don't really have a choice of whether we buy into it or not, because without any of this, you and I wouldn't be doing what we're doing.
True.
So it's weaved its way into the fabric of this country. And I blame social media for a lot of the ills, but it's not the social media's fault. It's the people who use it, because there's good things that come out of social media. We wouldn't have this conversation about mental health if we didn't have social media, because nobody would be talking about it. And I think that that's the real, where the rubber meets the road between like a lot of people who think of this country as this Ward and June Cleaver perfect 1950s bullshit. Okay. It never existed then, and it doesn't exist now, because behind every white picket fence is a black dog somewhere. And it doesn't matter what that dog is, be it addiction, abuse, whatever. So you can't, it's the engineers and the people who use it. Unfortunately, for people like us and creators and just people to keep in contact with their family, it's a great thing. So there's a yin and yang to everything. There's always an upside and a downside. And like the good side of being born in a human being is that you're alive. The downside is that there's a lot of hardship, suffering, and you don't know what that is, and you die at the end. So it's different sides of the same coin again, like sort of you can't have good without evil, up without down.
No, I agree with you too, because I think
that nonstop. Well, there is, and the nonstop. It's hard because I don't want to see a lot of regulation, because that's the problem. We never regulate in a normal way. We go full tilt all the way to one side or the other, jam it all the way to where you take it all away. It's all or nothing. Like everything is black and white, and the problem is we don't have anybody who's willing to see the gray in everything, because again, man, there's actually three sides to every story. There's the story of the first, there's the story of the second party, and then there's the story in the middle of the two stories that the person's hearing. So, I don't necessarily think you can blame social media for everything. It is, but it's not good to have unregulated, like, being able to post every single thing. Because again, now these are private companies. They make their own rules. They can make up the rules. So they obviously don't want to change it. So obviously they're dividing us even more. But who's at fault? Who's creating the memes we're all falling into? So you got to look at all of it. but it does good things. It spreads good messages, man. It finds kids. It finds dogs. So there's good and bad. But yes, there's some blame, but there's also blame on parents. There's also blame on bullies. And there's also just blame on culture. But is culture to blame for everything too? I mean, where does it stop? Like, when do we take personal responsibility, at least for some things?
I personally think that technology, the internet, all of the computer based, I mean, these fucking things, I'd be lost without it. I wouldn't know anybody's phone number. It's all in here. I used to have all my phone numbers memorized. I knew everybody's number. Now I couldn't remember a one but mine. All right, Len, I appreciate you stopping by, bro. Take it easy. Good to see you, bro. And I thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah, but I think that the information on the internet it's great to have. If you want to look up how to grow rhododendrons, or how to fix your car, or how to cook this pot roast, it's a great thing. But I think there's just way too much information at our fingertips at any given time, and I think that drastically has an effect on mental health.
Oh, yeah, it does. Yes, it does. 24-hour information with no stoppage at all is a recipe for depression, anxiety, and possible death by suicide for people. And it's engineered that way. You know, I mean, look at marketing. Look at all the commercials we see on TV. It's either for ED medication, antidepressants, heart medication, or cholesterol medication, and ask your doctor about it, because they're putting the idea in your head to ask about it.
Dude, you know what? Honestly, that ED shit, man, that would definitely affect my mental health. I'm 50 years old, and I'm so glad it still works. Every day. I thank God if it twitches a little bit. I thank God. I'm like, that's my boy. Thank you.
You know? As long as it twitches, man, it's good.
Yeah, as long as there's some life down there, it's like, oh, yeah, he's still got a pulse. We're good.
Yeah, that's what happens too. That's what happens.
Yeah, but it's I don't know, man. I just and along the lines of ED with the magic pill, I wish there was a magic pill for people that were suffering from anxiety and depression and poor mental health, that they could just take this little pill with no side effects, and it just kind of like makes that go, or gives them an answer to how to fix it or something, you know, because I feel bad for people, man. I know a person who unfortunately lost her daughter to an overdose, and I just see it every day. She posts about her daughter and how much she misses her, and she's been gone a while, and I know it tears her up inside daily, dude. And I feel for her like you wouldn't believe. Every time I see a post, I'm like, I mean, it hurts me. And I didn't know her daughter at all, unfortunately. She seemed like a really, really good woman. But it's just like every time I see it, it kind of like taps at my heart a little bit. It's like, I can't imagine what she's going through. And like you said, you have your things, I have my things, you know. But I can't imagine. That's just raw pain that I don't think it'll ever go away with her. I hate to say it, but I feel so bad. She might even be watching now, and I kind of hope she is, because I feel for you. I do.
Well, if she is watching, I'm so sorry for your loss. We've lost far too many lights to overdoses and to addiction for far too long, and for a lot of reasons. But if she's out there and you haven't worked through your trauma and your loss, please find help and work through that trauma, because you need to, or else it will swallow you, because it doesn't have to swallow you. Don't let your daughter's memory go to waste. And that's what I hope for everybody. I hope everybody out there that is suffering can find a way to turn their suffering into a positivity for themselves. Like I do with the podcast.
Sometimes things consume people, though. I mean, it's
absolutely, man, absolutely.
And you don't think, going through your, I shouldn't even say normal day because it's kind of an insult to people that do have issues, but like me going through a regular day, I don't think about that stuff. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't imagine going through a regular day and that being my norm. I couldn't even imagine. Yes, I'm in a low spot right now, but I know I'll be back up here again someday. But I couldn't imagine every day being way down here and knowing it's never going to get better. You know what I mean?
Well, you have to find things that help you make it a little bit better. And I struggle with this a lot. Okay. I do not have this game won by any stretch. I speak from my own personal experience, but the thing that speaks the most is my own personal struggle. Mm-hmm. And I allow myself to struggle a lot more than most people would, just because I'm a self-loather. So it's part of the DNA of my issues. But you have to find a positive. But it takes work. But only you can do it. And that's the tough part for people, is when you're in the dumps, it's just more dumps feel like they fall on, because that's what happens, is you keep attracting more depression because you're wallowing in that depression. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way, because I do this. I'm doing this currently and stuff. I just started therapy again for, I don't know, my 4th or 5th time or something. And my therapist that I'm working with now is great, and she's doing what I've asked of her, which is to challenge me and prompt me to work on the stuff that I really need to work on. And I have to struggle some days to find that thing to just get out of bed some days. And, and I have a lot of great things that are happening in my life, but when you're in that very low frequency, more low frequencies follow. So it's very hard to break the cycle. And that's why a stop gap of some sort, that's why you have to cause yourself a stop gap. It's why, like, a lot of people, when they're trying to break a habit, wear a rubber band, and every time they think about, smoking or whatever, they snap the rubber band on their wrist. It's kind of the same thought, is that every day you have to find something. And everybody loves grateful lists, because gratitude actually does raise your frequency. And you have to be grateful for the bad things, because the bad things that have happened to you happened for you, not to you, because they were there to teach you something. And and look, when you lose a child, you're like, what the fuck was I supposed to learn on that one? But it teaches you something. And I know that, because I talk to parents who've lost children, and they're like, we thought that this changed everything, but it changed everything, and it made it even more incredible, because that person's still there, their memory's still there, and that wouldn't have happened if something else would have happened. So you have to find one thing, whether it's that first cup of coffee, whether it's looking into your wife or husband or significant other's eyes, petting your dog, looking at your child. Whatever it is, man, whatever it is, maybe just throwing your feet over the side of the bed and just plopping your feet down, just that grounding alone, and just a deep breath. Because that's really all it takes, is a breathe in through your nose, hold it for 2 seconds, and out through your mouth. And that automatically starts to reset your system if you do that a few times. And that's a good way to snap yourself out of something. But the idea is to be mindful enough to catch yourself as you're getting into that pattern, because once you get into that frequency, it's very hard to break.
Yeah.
But you staying positive is very difficult in those times, and it's hard to stay positive, because positive psychology, I think, is a big letdown in a lot of ways, because there's no faking it till you make it if you don't feel like making it.
I was actually, as I was doing my show prep tonight and going through my little ritual that I always do. I do have a silly little ritual I do before every show. I listen to a certain song before every show, and then
That's awesome.
watch the clock, and So as I'm looking at, and I'm not going to say the name, my ALEXA, which is right there.
Yeah.
It said on there. It said, "Ask ALEXA for a mental health." I don't think it was an evaluation. For a mental health something. Oh, it's on there right now. Screening. It says, ask. You just say her name, and then take a mental health screening.
Yes. And those screenings, you can find screenings like that. There's screenings for anxiety. There's online screenings for depression. There's online screenings for addictions. There's online screenings for PTSD. There's online screenings for most of those disorders, because that may prompt you to go to the doctor. Now, these questionnaires may be semi-generalized questionnaires.
Mm.
My doctor, when I went for my physical this year, asked me the 7 questions that they ask everybody. And I always joke with the nurse when she gets to the, hey, are you depressed? And I'm like, every day since I was 9. And she looks at me and I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm bipolar too. It's all good. I'm working on it. You can skip the rest of the questions. And most of these questionnaires, though, if you go into online and search depression questionnaire, you'll find a bunch of different ones. And they're very good at pinpointing, if you're honest, where you really are. I had to do 2 questionnaires for my therapist recently. And I'm severely depressed and moderate to severely anxious based on my numbers. And that's real life. Like that literally, that's me like pulling off the Band-Aid, man. You want to talk about vulnerability? There it is. You want to think I'm weak? Fucking think I'm weak. I don't give a fuck, because that's the truth. And
honestly, dude, that makes you stronger in my eyes, anyways.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that towards you. I'm just saying it as a generalized thing.
Yeah, I think that people that can rip that Band-Aid off and be like, okay, motherfucker, you want to know what's wrong with me? Here you go. Because that's the only thing that helped me when I was going through my stuff. I went to see therapists, and it was like a lot of them were just too nice to me. I think they were all just like, like they were all like it wasn't helping, and it was actually making me mad that they were like almost like they were being condescending. That's what I mean. I was taking it as they were like, oh well, we'll work through that. It's like, stop doing that. You know what I mean? And the one guy that I was going to for like 3 years straight, this dude was awesome because he was a no bullshit guy. He was like, it was like tough love. And that's what I needed. That's what I needed. It may not be what everybody else needs, but he was like if I was starting to hold stuff back, he'd be like, do you want help or not? Let's get to what's really bothering you. Do you want help or not? Because I can't help you unless you tell me what's going on. He's like, I'm not a mind reader. And I'm like, wow, this guy's a dick. What an asshole. Who the fuck are you to talk to me like that? But you know what's bothering me, dude? That's what I needed. I needed that. I needed that push. Like, listen, I'm not, don't waste my fucking time. Tell me what's wrong with you and I'll help you.
Right.
I needed that matter of fact. Like some people may need that coddling. I shouldn't say coddle. That's probably a bad word to say, but like they need that kind of nurturing to help them get into the process.
Yeah. You caught me because I need the nurturing more than I need the tough love. Because the tough love was the tough love that I got as a kid. And what I realize is now as an adult, when people try to use it on me, it sends me into those triggers of childhood that really that start getting me going. Yep. So because I didn't have a lot of nurturing in my very, very early years, so it was something that I didn't realize was going to affect me later on. But you realize that that's at the root of your problem. that there's something that, so any emotion that we get to, like we talked about anger earlier, anger is just the surface emotion. See, that's just the top layer. That's the whipped cream.
It's like the
Like,
shit
that's-
to protect it.
Yeah, absolutely.
nothing gets
because
in.
there's right. See, there's a third or fourth emotion in there that may be shame. It might be guilt. It might be something that you haven't explored because you don't even know it's there. Because something happened to you when you were 7, somebody didn't like your tie, and it made you feel less than, and it made an impression on your mental hard drive that you didn't realize. And then all of a sudden it comes back when you're 37 and you're doing a pitch for the fuzzing show, and all of a sudden you're like, shit, why am I angry? And you're like, you're back in your 7-year-old self again. And that's
I it's I'm 50 now, and people pick on me for my green beard. Now I just kind of give them the one finger salute, and
there you go.
I
love that beard, dude. I shaved mine all off because but I'm kind of letting this grow out for the winter again.
Stupid me, I branded myself. Now I have to leave it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I love it. We know when you're coming.
Everybody sees that. They know right where I'm coming from. But now,
Hey,
I mean, getting back to therapy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people go into therapy with the right intentions, but for some reason they hold back when they get in there. And I think that's obviously it's extremely devastating to the end goal. I mean, it's, you're not going to get anywhere if you, oh, thank you, Sandy. Oh, the kiddos love my beard. Thanks, Lana. I think that's really detrimental to their health. As far as like, they go in there and they say, all right, well, I'm going to open up but they don't give away everything. And that's like a major setback. No.
So first of all, Fuzz, thanks for inviting both of us to be on. I'm sorry Tim couldn't be on tonight because I got a jet in a few minutes.
Okay.
So this is a great way for me to kind of wrap it up because this is kind of important to talk about because like we're having this conversation right now. Like the whole idea of this conversation started around grief and loss, and we've covered a lot of stuff about mental health. And that conversation wouldn't have happened had it not been for us to take that chance to have this talk.
Mm-hmm.
So we get out of this talk what we put in. Therapy is the same way, okay? And unless you are in therapy for other reasons aside from your own personal choice, okay? And I don't even know what that is, to be honest with you. You get what you put in. So if you're not going to be honest with the therapist, okay, you're not shortchanging them. They're going to make what they make anyway. The person that you're hurting is you because you're not really getting at the root of it. And the therapy isn't going to work. And therapy is only as good as the work you're going to put in. And I like to write. And writing helps me because I can process things a little differently. And I have a better way sometimes of being able to write it down because words get clumsy sometimes in my mouth if I get a little excited or whatever. And sometimes I get a little nervous. And like I was a bit nervous coming on here tonight, even though I do this stuff myself. But it's just like, it's weird being the guest sometimes on a video show, when you're like in your little office here.
Mm-hmm.
Therapy is a tool to help you, just like medication. And some people choose the medication route because they're not talkers and they don't want to talk about it. They need something else. They think a different way, and medication is good for them. Other people choose medication and talk therapy, which are generally the choice of professionals everywhere. I was asked at my last session about medication again, and right now I'm choosing not to go that route because at some point I may have to use this stuff, and I'm not ready to jump on that train yet because I've been on and off several over the years, and they don't do good things to your body.
Right.
At least in my opinion. Okay. And my mother needs those types of meds, but they've riddled her too. But she also doesn't take care of herself either. So that's, there's personal responsibility and all that. And that's what this is all about. Therapy. You don't go to therapy unless you need to work through something. Therapy is not something you just go do because, you need to get out of the house for an hour, because it almost loses what it's there for. And quite honestly, getting a therapy appointment now is very hard. So if you're only going to therapy and you're not being honest with your therapist, please stop going until you're ready to be honest, because you're really taking the spot from somebody else who can use it right now.
Yeah, no,
a therapist.
Good point.
But if you need this help, please get it, because that's what you're going for. But be honest, because that's the only way you're going to get to the root of this, man. It's hard, dude. It's hard. You're going to face a lot of unpleasant, unharmonious, angry, sad, cry, ugly, scream, punch holes in walls, like shit. But at the end, you're going to be a much different person. And I like to think that it would be beneficial. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, I mean, yeah, I completely see your point. And I know you have to get going. So do me a huge favor.
Yeah.
And I want you to take a second, a minute, 5 minutes, plug what you guys got going, because you guys are doing amazing work at what you do. I love listening to your podcast, man. You can find these guys at Above Ground Podcast on Facebook. I'll let you take the rest. Let us know what you guys got going on. Plug anything you want to, please. And the floor is yours, bro.
Dude. So first of all, Fuzz, and to everybody out there who is watching now, will hear this. Thank you so much for listening. I hope I could at least shed some light on a somewhat difficult topic that a lot of people don't like to talk about, but we need to talk about it, because hiding our pain is killing us, literally. Okay, depression is killing us, literally. Above Ground Podcast is Above Ground Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, Above Ground Pod on Twitter, Above Ground Podcast on YouTube. You can find us on all the pod platforms, Castbox, Spotify, Apple, Google, Audible, Amazon, all that stuff. You can find us there. I just put out a new single in June called Memoir, Despair and Mayhem. And it's about my struggles, my mental health struggles. And if you want to check that out, you can check Will Foley out on Spotify also. And Tim and I are working on stuff right now. September, like we talked about earlier, is Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. And all this month on Above Ground Podcast is a interview, and interview is spelled INNER, because it's really an inner view of people.
I like that.
And this week's episode is called Don't Stop Believing, with Michael and Jessica Domingos of Tiny Evie Rocks, a 501c3 based in Tyler, Texas, who lost their 12-year-old daughter Evie to suicide. Next week, we have an anonymous conversation with a woman from a woman from up here in upstate New York somewhere, who didn't want to be named, but had an incredible story of loss and struggle. Coming up later in the month, we have Patsy Grieco, who owns Fastlane Tattoo in East Greenbush, or in Castleton. He's our September 22nd episode. His story is heartbreaking, but if you watch him on Facebook, man, and watch his videos, dude, my heart goes out to that dude. He was so awesome to talk to. I can't wait till everybody hears this. Such a cool fucking dude, man.
Looking forward to that.
I look forward to getting some ink from him someday. So yeah, every week in September is another interview, right up through, and the podcast comes out every Wednesday. And that's basically it, man. You can find Tim and I, you can connect with us on Facebook or Instagram. Tim loves to hang out on Instagram, and he answers a lot of stuff. I answer all our emails. You can email us at abovegroundpodcast@gmail. And yeah, follow us on social, and just be there for someone. Like, that's the thing that I just want to leave everybody with is if you've overcome a hurdle, the best way to make yourself feel better is to help someone else over that hurdle, man. So take care of each other out there. Be well, be safe, be above. Peace. Thanks, Fuzz. I appreciate it so much, man.
Hey, listen, tell Tim I'm sorry, and we'll do this again soon.
Absolutely, dude. I appreciate it. I will let him know as soon as I get done with you, dude. Dude, I
Be well,
appreciate you too, man. Be well. Thanks.
Good night, man.
Later.
Will Foley, thank you very much, Tim. I'm so sorry we had trouble connecting, but like I said, man, we will definitely do this again for sure. One little conversation, obviously you can see, sparked a big conversation. I figured we'd be about 45 minutes. We're already an hour 20. So, yeah, you guys can see one little conversation sparks a big one. I can tell you this, guys. All right. Some people do have trouble reaching out to a therapist or something like that. The big thing is to reach out, whether it's to your clergy, to your friends, family. If you're struggling with mental illness, if you got to talk, if you got to vent, if you have to, get something off your chest, talk to somebody about it. It helps, believe me. I have my go-tos, Lana, that I vent to all the time. And there's several others. I'm just singling Lana out because I see your name up there. So, but it helps. It really does. And I rarely sleep. Everybody knows that. So, you can get me on Messenger 24/7. Those of you that got my phone number, you can reach out to me. Even if, I don't know you that well. As long as you're okay with telling a stranger what's bothering you. And I shouldn't say stranger because we're all kind of family in this community, but that's kind of how I envision this whole That Fuzzing 518 show. Is not, you guys aren't listeners or viewers to me. You guys are my degenerates. You guys are we're like a community. We're all friends here. You know what I mean? So I want people to be able to be comfortable, to be able to say anything they want without being judged or anything like that. So reach out, even if it's to me or somebody that you know and love. Like I said, clergy, a therapist, professionals, somebody. It could mean a world of difference. It really could. I know I can tell you countless stories of stuff that's going the wrong way. People not reaching out and ultimately doing something that is irreversible. On the same token, I can tell you that I've talked to a lot of people that have turned their situation around. And that means something. That's very, very meaningful and strong. And the success stories are always the greatest. And the horror stories are the ones that are the worst, obviously. But like I said, something's bothering you. You want to vent, talk. Even if something great happened and you want to share that, reach out. I could use good news. I can always use good news. Good news is a great thing. But, I mean, let's just all be there for each other. That's probably the easiest thing we can do is just respect each other and be there for each other. Again, I told you guys this was going to be a different show, and I definitely didn't lie to you. So now we'll get to the business. Back to the business and everything things. Nippertown.com. Why can't I think of the name of it? Capital Underground, Above Ground Podcast. We're going to throw them in there. Empire Live, everybody, Shuffle Extreme Radio, all the business that you guys know, MyronLozen.com. Notice Skulls on Facebook. Now I can't think of it. Heavy Metal Away Life on Facebook. All that, you know that, guys. But I'm going to leave you guys for the night. I appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning in. It's been an amazing night. I do feel a little bit better about myself, my situation. So what I'm going to do is I know I've played this before in the show, but to bring us out, I'm going to play. I might get emotional now. Come on, man! I almost made it through this. I'm going to play this song that my son created. It's called "I'm Gonna Stay." I'm gonna stay. Yeah, I am getting a little choked up. I'm sorry. I actually played this for my father a couple weeks before he passed away because I kept forgetting to play it for him. I played it for him, and my father actually teared up and said he was very proud of my son for doing that. We're a musical family, so it's kind of like now the torch is being passed, you know. So it's kind of like, Goodland. I'm glad. So it's kind of like now it has a little bit more meaning to me. So I'm gonna play this. It's just a still avatar of my kid. The song's about 2.5 minutes long. I would appreciate it if you guys listen to it. And listen, just take care of each other. That's all I can say. I'm not going to go through the normal spiel. Watch each other's backs. Watch your own back. Look out for each other, and just everybody be safe and enjoy life. That's what it's all about, anyways. I will see you guys again next week. Murderers Row is going to be on the show next week on the 9th, and we'll have an interview with them. Keep kicking ass, guys. I could never do this stuff without you guys. So I appreciate each and every one of you guys. We'll see you next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Till then, take care of yourselves, guys. Night.
Have you ever felt this heartache? Thought that there would be some magic, but I won't let loose. I'm gonna stay. I no longer believe in magic. I know that it might sound pathetic, but I won't let loose. I'm gonna stay. Need to keep an it real, they say. With a smile I can see it's fake. Don't trust the ones that can't read your soul. I never knew how hard it would be. I just opened up my eyes, see what I can do in life. There must be a road that I can take.